to Verstappen. And that is Russell's hopes of a podium shattered. As we still have to make our final pit stop, and we are under severe pressure from the Mexican Sergio Perez, as there's a massive moment into turn 1, as Perez have literally hopped the curb to try and get past me, and in the process has broken his front wing. There's a bit of Turbocharged 51 over here. I hope you're having a splendid day wherever you are in the world. Happy New Year to everyone. Welcome back to Turbo Fox Racers, and welcome back to our F1 career mode, the road to glory with Williams Racing. Driving next to Alexander Albon. Guys, I hope you guys have had a splendid festive season full of joy, love, and a well-deserved holiday. Guys, I want to apologize that the videos on the channel have been so slow recently. Like, ever since the start of November, I've been extremely busy with stuff, and I just really didn't have time. But it's a new year. And we're still going for our goals, and we're still going to knock everything out of the park. So let's get straight into the video. So we've got a marketing department event. This is the round 14 of this season. So it's only, with this round included, there's only 3 rounds to go, guys. And then season 2 starts. So obviously the game wants me to select a rival. So because obviously you guys at the beginning of this season, for some other reason, the F1 game absolutely just threw away and corrupted my previous save, or my initial save. So I had to redo it and get to the same points that I was with the original series. And with that came a lot of, the game set to very easy difficulty, and a lot of good performances. So the game keeps putting me against like higher teams rivals, and I was just tired of just not choosing a rival, so I just chose Russell. We're gonna lose it, but it's fine. You guys can see we're still waiting 1 day for the tire blankets. I really want to do some weight reduction on the car with the front nose cone, but obviously I also want to keep our engine power up, because that's the only really strong point of our car at this stage of the career mode. And I think season 2 is it's really gonna make or break us to see if we can ever win a championship with this team. But as I scroll through the upgrades, obviously aero and chassis are very important, because that's where we're lacking the most. And we've only got just over 1,200 resource points, but we've got a chassis and an aero upgrade on the way. And here's the results as things stand. So we're within 10 points of Lando Norris. We're 9 points behind Lando. So if Lando has 2 really bad races and we can scrape into the points, we might beat him, but that is not my goal. My goal is to stay ahead of Ricciardo and Alonso, even though it's going to be very hard for them to catch me with 3 rounds to go, and just stay in P8 of the Drivers' Championship. Charles is already your Drivers' Champion, and I think, I'm not even sure Ferrari are the Constructors' Champions yet, but if they're not yet, they're probably going to seal it out this race or the next one in Brazil. But so basically, we are just fighting to survive at this stage, and just to get through this very long and tedious first season. But guys, looking at the results, honestly, it's been a cracker of a season from Leclerc, Perez, and Hamilton. Verstappen hasn't yet won a race this season, as well as Russell and Sainz, obviously with this new saved season. So Hamilton, Perez, and Leclerc have been the 3 performing drivers. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in season 2, I'm not going to lie. But we keep the timeline going. 1 upgrade has come onto the car. We've got an extra 350 resource points. We've got 1,561 resource points now. And that's just our wonderful department engineer telling us that our upgrades have come through. So now I need to decide, do I continue with chassis and aero, or do I jump over towards the engine side of things? The thing is, we're already so close to Singapore, so doing aero upgrades really wouldn't be, the best thing unless we rush them. So we're just going to go for normal development on the DRS because that's going to be a very handy upgrade in Brazil and in Abu Dhabi, however you want to say it. But we go to the 26th. Our aero upgrade comes in, we jump to the 29th, and it is now time for one of my favorite races on the calendar, the Singapore Grand Prix. And guys, obviously,
there's a risk some of our hard work will be undone, so we need to mitigate it. As soon as you can, I want you to look at the developments we have and tell us what areas you want to invest in protecting.
Okay guys, sorry for talking over our department engineer there. But with 3 rounds to go, we've been hit by a blunder. Because the technical regulations are changing, meaning there are upgrades that we can lose. And it's in the chassis department, which is the department we lack the most here at Williams. There's 11 weeks remaining, but 11 weeks combined with 3 races is not a lot of time. So the main thing for us is this has basically stopped all of our upgrades that have not yet been purchased. And now we need to repurchase these upgrades, because if some of the other teams above us miss 2 or 3 upgrades, that can be exactly what we need here at Williams to finally get ourselves into the midfield and start fighting in the midfield without, always being the slowest car and just defending after lap 2 or 3. So this has now become, save the upgrades essential. It's no longer Williams Racing, it's save the upgrades essential. But in any case, so for now, our upgrades for the rest of the season has basically been halted because we need to use all our resource points to repurchase those 10 upgrades that we've already installed onto the car. But now let's look at the performance index, guys, because obviously that's a worry for Brazil and Abu Dhabi. We now need to look at the performance. Guys, we are so close to the midfield and no longer being the slowest car. It's not even funny. So leading the way now is Red Bull with Ferrari just in P2, Mercedes P3, McLaren are in a world of their own in P4. Then you've got Alfa Romeo P5, Alpine P6, Aston Martin P7, Haas P8, Alfa Tauri P9, and we are now still in P10. But from Alfa Romeo all the way down to us at Williams is such a small gap. It's actually a little bit pathetic to think about it, that the gap is that small between those few teams. That's why I said if 1 or 2 teams misses even 2 or 3 upgrades with this regulation reset, that can be us getting into the money. That can be us starting to fight for points on a regular basis and not just praying something goes wrong or there's a ton of safety cars or something. So let's hope for all the way from Alfa Romeo to Alfa Tauri that hopefully some of them can't purchase some of the upgrades that they've installed on the car already, and that gives us the opportunity to actually catch up to them. So after practice and me gaining the resource points, I obviously repurchased some of our upgrades, and I started with the major ones first because those are the most important upgrades to keep. And as the resource points come in, I'll buy, cheaper, well, not cheaper, but the minors that we've installed. But the majors are the one that we need to keep on the car because those are the ones that gave us the biggest leap. And unfortunately, our chassis just sucks. It's by far the worst on the grid. But it is now time for qualifying, guys. So let's head straight into quali because obviously aero and chassis, which chassis we are the weakest, as I've already mentioned. We're also not, the strongest in aero. We're one of the weaker cars in aero. In the aero department, let me rather put it that way. So this might be a very tough weekend for us here at Williams. But as always, we're going to try our best and see what happens. So heading into qualifying, there is a slight chance of rain. But so far, it's staying dry. And coming towards the end of our first lap in Q1, guys, the car really felt good. The car felt good. It felt sticky. And I really started to build up confidence throughout practice, not even just through qualifying. So the car really felt good, and it started to feel like the upgrades we're putting on are starting to work. So our first lap is a 39.3 as we just quickly let Mark know we're coming back to the pit lane. But by the end of, mid Q1, it's 19th. We go for a second lap. We come across the line. It's a 38.5, which is enough for P14. Now, at this stage, I was very confident because I felt we had the pace to get in to Q2. So by the end of qualifying, we've only dropped one place. We're only down to P15, and now we need to go for absolute gold and try and get this Williams into Q2, because so far this season, we haven't made a single Q2 session. Our teammate, however, has made Q2, but we haven't. So it's kind of critical that we start matching Alex in qualifying, because we've got the race pace over him, and he's also just had so much bad luck this season. But quali pace, he's definitely got the upper hand. So you guys can see, as we're going here around the beautiful streets of Marina Bay, we're dipping and falling into the green and the red. So at this stage, we're matching our previous best lap time, but I definitely had some time to gain in Sector 2 and a little bit more in Sector 3. So if I could just nail this middle and last sector, we would be Gucci. We'd be Gucci, my turbo natics. We'd be Gucci. But to be Gucci, I need to nail it. So we open up DRS on this little backstretch. You guys can see I'm right behind one of the Ferrari cars, actually. I'm actually one of the first cars to go for the final quali lap, where usually I'm the last car. But I just wanted to get out there because my confidence was high and I didn't want to wait too long. So we're on the back of this Ferrari. Actually, you know, reasonably keeping up with him, but we've got a McLaren pressurizing us from behind. The McLaren is loose hands the best of the rest car at this stage. So that car is very, very fast, and I think they've got a very solid aero package underneath them. But coming out of the final corner, well, the penultimate corner, we nip the wall through the final double left-hander, and we are in P out of qualifying, I guess, again, because Albon is in P11. So the car had Q2 pace, but clearly we couldn't extract it. How on earth did Pierre Gasly get provisional pole position for Q1? And by over 3.5 tenths, nevertheless. Don't know how the Frenchman did that. That is working some miracles, in my opinion. But we fall out in P16, guys. But we had 2 tenths to launch. No, not even. We had less than a tenth to launch Stroll. So it was close, but no cigar. But what can you do? It's time for the race.
Here we go then, it's Formula One in Marina Bay once again. And welcome to you all at home who join us today for this fascinating race around the baking hot but beautiful streets of Singapore. It's a 3.1 mile lap here at the Marina Bay Street Circuit, with 47% taken at full throttle. It's hot, humid and bumpy around the 13 lefts and 10 rights of mostly slow corners. But we should see speeds of up to 200 miles per hour along the Raffles Boulevard. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. A fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday, and it's put him on pole. And the smooth operator Carlos Sainz completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Russell, Verstappen, Sergio Perez, and Norris, Ricciardo, Gasly, Magnussen, and Lewis Hamilton, Ocon, Albon, Valtteri Bottas, O'Connor, Mick Schumacher, Joe, Sebastian Vettel, and Fernando Alonso. Tsunoda and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. Natalie Pinkham joins me once again in the commentary box. It's fantastic to have you with us today. I'm curious though, how do you think the drivers stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the rundown into turn 1, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It'll keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
That is the idea as usual, Mark. So guys, for tonight's race, there's no rain expected. It's all dry. It's a little bit overcast, but there is 0% chance of rain. And we have to make this count as much as possible. I don't think we're going to be able to get points, guys, because like I said, we are very much lacking in the chassis department. We are by far the worst chassis. and not nearly close to the best in aerodynamics. So we're just going to, if points are available, we'll try. But other than that, we're just going to try our best. And you guys can see I'm going for a very aggressive 2-stop because I've got nothing to lose. We're just going to try our absolute best. And thanks to penalties, we've been elevated to P14, right behind our teammate Alex Albon in P12, who's right in front of us on the grid. Well, like directly ahead of us. In front of us is Valtteri Bottas in one of the Alfa Romeos. So we are, I think, the only car starting on the soft tires, if I have to be honest. But like I said, guys, I'm going to go for the softs. Pit early, go on the mediums, push on fresh mediums, see if I can undercut a few of the cars ahead of me. And then when that final pit stop comes, hopefully I'm close enough to still get my head into the points, or at least close to the points. But at this stage, we need to see what happens. Anything and everything can happen, especially around the streets of Singapore, and especially because this is the world of Formula One. So guys, the grid is being formed from P14 on the grid. Let's see what happens. It's a perfect parking spot, and we now head to 5 red lights, and it's go for the Singapore Grand Prix. It's a Ferrari front row lockout, Leclerc from Sainz with the Red Bull of Sergio, of Max Verstappen, and I think it's George Russell behind them in P3. The Mercedes gets P3, but will Sainz dethrone his already world champion teammate from the lead? Here we go, here goes the Spaniard. He's, well, it's actually Leclerc on the inside, Carlos around the outside. Will Carlos have the drive? It's a little bit of tail wagging from the Spaniard's car, but Carlos Sainz takes the lead of the Singapore Grand Prix with Charles Leclerc in P2 in the second Ferrari. In P3, is that Russell or Hamilton? That is George Russell, with Perez P4, Verstappen P5, and then followed by the 2 McLarens. Lewis Hamilton is one of the cars that actually had a penalty, so he is going to be coming from behind. Can the Mercedes of Russell stick with these 2 Ferraris? We'll have to wait and see. But the top 3 teams, Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull, are very close to each other on the performance ladder. And as you guys can see, the front runners, and actually, Sergio Perez, it wasn't Perez in P4, it was, no, this is, Verstappen is ahead, so it was Perez behind Verstappen. But in any case, so you guys can see the front runners have started on the hard compound tires. The 2 Ferraris, the 2 Mercedes, and the 2 Red Bulls have started on the hard tires. So they're going to go for a very deep first, well, for a very long first strategy. You guys can see here, I go up the inside of a few cars into the first corner. It's a little bit of bumpy bargy between myself, my teammate, and Valtteri Bottas, but we come out ahead of them, and it's a beautiful run there through the first few corners as we now go for a massive dive up the inside of Lewis Hamilton. And guys, that's a move that in the moment I felt I had to make, because I'm on 2 compound softer tires, and if I can get ahead of one more car, that puts a car in between me and Lewis, and I can actually, stick ahead of him. And that's exactly what I do as I go up the inside of Esteban Ocon, and even up the inside of the AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly. It's a beautiful move up the inside, and we are pushing like crazy, making best work of these soft tires while they still have grip in them and pace in them. The main thing for me was trying not to overheat these tires, as we are now right behind the Haas of Kevin Magnussen, who's right behind the 2 McLarens of Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris. Into this little section on the bridge, it's a big dive up the inside of K-Mag, but more than enough space and respect is given between the 2 of us, and that's another position up. We are now all the way up into P8, following the 2 McLarens, who are following the 2 Red Bulls, following Russell, who's following both Ferraris. Russell is like a little bit of a joker in there, otherwise it would have been 2 by 2 by 2 by 2. But it's okay. Hopefully his teammate Lewis Hamilton can catch up. But Sainz is your leader, 8 tenths ahead of his teammate Charles Leclerc. Russell P3, Verstappen P4, Perez P5, Ricciardo P6, Lando P7, myself P8, Magnussen in P9, and your top 10 is rounded out by the end of the first lap by the Frenchman who got provisional pole position in Q1, Mr. Pierre Gasly. But here we go, guys. So there's a lot that But guys, there's really a lot that can still happen in this Grand Prix. We really need to keep our heads about us. And as we now go on to lap 3, we look at the 2 Alfa Romeo drivers who's having a bit of a ding-dong battle here. It's Guan Yu Zhou versus Valtteri Bottas, the rookie versus the veteran. Let's see what happens. Zhou is trying to make the move here on his teammate Bottas, but the experience of Valtteri on that outside line is just too much for Zhou to get around him at this stage of the race. And now we look at Mick Schumacher. Zhou made a mistake later on on that lap, guys, and lost out to Schumacher and Vettel. But look at this. Here goes Schumacher up the inside of the Finn Valtteri Bottas. Can the young German get this move done, or will Bottas do the exact same to Schumacher that he did to his teammate? It's not possible, but he's trying to go for a dive up the inside for the next corner, but Schumi just shuts the door in Valtteri's face after Valtteri decides to back out of it. Beautiful move there from the young German. Now we jump all the way on to lap 6, guys, as Lando Norris is pressurizing his teammate Daniel Ricciardo, and the two McLarens are actually sticking with the two Red Bulls, and they are also sticking with Russell, but Russell is like the bottleneck in this little battle, because the two Ferraris are starting to break away slowly but surely, with Carlos 1.5 seconds ahead of Leclerc, who's 1.5 seconds ahead of Russell. But let's see what happens here on lap 6. We now jump onto ourselves as we are defending from Kevin Magnussen, as we are almost 4 seconds behind the two McLarens. We just don't have their pace. But lap 6 has come. It's time to get off of these softs and onto a fresh set of medium tires to push like a crazy person and be in clean air. That's the main thing. We need to be in clean air. That is the long and the short about it. Perfect stop into the pit lane. Off of the softs onto the mediums. Here we go, out of the lane, fresh tires. Now we can go to a minimal of lap 21, but I'm going to try and push for at least lap 23 to lap 24, so that we have very fresh softs at the end of this race, so that we can push like a crazy person. A little bit too late on the brakes coming out of the pit lane, as we get a little bit of a warning there, but we are in P19 as Lance Stroll is in P20 after making contact with somebody on the first lap, needing to pit early. We're about 10 seconds ahead of the Canadian, and now we need to push like a madman. So you guys see, the main thing now is to get these tires up to temperature first, but here around the streets of Singapore, with these hot and humid conditions, even at nighttime, it's not any trouble to get the tires up to temperature. Here we go, Fernando Alonso goes up the inside of a Valtteri Bottas. He's also a driver that started a little bit further back thanks to penalties. So that's a beautiful move on Valtteri. As now we look at myself, and it's all the way to lap 12 now, as we've caught up to the back of Tsunoda, Zhou, and Bottas. So we need to try and overtake these gentlemen as quickly as possible, because we are on the quicker tire. And at this stage of the race, guys, my race pace was phenomenal. It was green lap after green lap after green lap. We were just keeping on setting personal bests. So looking to the gap at the leaders, Sainz has grown his lead now to 2 seconds over his teammate Leclerc, who's grown his second place lead over third place to 3 seconds over George Russell. But Russell, Verstappen, and Perez are still battling with the two McLarens, trying to keep their cars ahead. As we go for an insane dive bomb up the inside of the Chinese rookie Guan Yu Zhou, we have a little bit of a tap on the inside of on the wall on the inside of that hairpin. But it's a beautiful move, as Tsunoda and Zhou actually have a little bit of a ding dong behind us, and the Japanese driver gets past the Chinese driver. But guys, this was a phenomenal move from myself. Zhou just leaves the door wide open, gives me a squeeze a little bit too late, forcing me to hit the wall, but we get the move done. It's all that matters. And here comes Yuki Tsunoda. Beautiful replay this around the outside of the Chinese driver. Zhou is pinched onto the inside curb. It unsettles his car, and Tsunoda is the one with the grip. We now jump once again onto the end of lap 12, guys. We were just on the middle of lap 12. It's now the end of lap 12. We've already caught up to the Finn Valtteri Bottas. We're going for the outside move, taking the esports line into turn 1, and that's an easy move around the outside of the Finn. And now we've got a nice 12-second gap to Fernando Alonso, so clean air once again. My teammate Albon is actually pressurizing Esteban Ocon for P11. So Albon is really doing well in this race so far. Let's see if he can get something done on the Frenchman here. Can the tire Brit? You gotta be kidding me. Guys, Albon has been the definition of bad engine luck this season. I don't even remember how much failures this poor man has had. I really feel for Alex. He's been so close to points so many times, and then it just gets ripped away from him. I really hope Williams sort out their reliability in Season 2 on the other side of the garage, because Albon deserves so much more. We now jump on to lap 15, and guys, basically, I needed to see if I was close to the two McLarens, because they were the cars that I was behind by about 5 seconds when I pitted, and I'm on fresh tires. I might have gained on them. You never know. But you guys can see most of the medium runners are starting to come in now for their pit stops. We round the final corner because we still have another pit stop to go. We're trying a very, very daring two-stop here. As Ricardo comes out of the pit lane, we are leaps and bounds ahead of the guy who was pressuring us before the pit stop, Kevin Magnussen, and that is music to my ears. And we were about 4 seconds behind the Honey Badger, which it started growing more and more. So now on the end of lap 15, the previous one was the end of lap 14, excuse me. Lando is into the pit lane. Lewis stays out because he's on the same strategy as his teammates and the Ferraris and Red Bulls, starting on the hards, going to the mediums. So we need to see how close we are to these drivers as Ocon comes in, Schumacher comes in, and I'm sure Vettel will come in as well. So if all this pans out, we will be back into P8 behind the two McLarens. But has Lando done enough to jump his teammate? I don't think he has. No, he has not. Ricciardo resumes ahead of his teammate, one position below where he was. But remember, Hamilton is out of sync. We go up into P9, and when all the pit stops phase 8, we should be ahead of the 7-time world champion, Lewis Hamilton. So here are all the drivers behind us, guys, and these are the cars that basically I'm racing. So when I make my final pit stop a little bit later on in this race onto those softs, I'm going to be battling those cars for the final positions. We now jump onto the end of lap 17 as the current world champion, the new world champion, Charles Leclerc, into the pit lane along with Max Verstappen. Will Hamilton come in as well? Yes, he will in the Mercedes. So Sainz, Russell and Perez have stayed out, and they will probably box the next lap. So let's see if we actually get ahead of Lewis, and if the undercut is going to work for Charles to maybe jump his teammate Sainz. We'll have to wait and see. But here we go. We go through the final chicane, now heading towards the final corner, well, the final two corners. Through we go, the final two corners onto the main straight. And guys, I don't think we've done enough to be ahead of Lewis. Him and Clean Air was quite fast. Let's quickly see. Oh no, we are actually. We're very well ahead of the 7-time world champion. He's even behind Magnussen. Oh boy, Lewis has got a tough race ahead of him, because now he's going to be battling with Gasly and Magnussen, and hopefully later on, well, maybe later on myself even. So now it's the end of lap 18. The Ferrari of Carlos Sainz, your race leader, is into the pit lane. Has his teammate Charles Leclerc done enough to take away P1 from him? Into the lane comes Sainz, as well as Russell, and probably Perez will come in as well. But guys, it's basically a race between the two Ferraris, because they are just in a league of their own this Grand Prix. The Red Bulls and the Mercedes can't touch the red men at Maranello. But here we go. Here comes Charles. Has he done enough to get ahead of his Spanish teammate Carlos Sainz into the first corner? Yes, he has. And Charles Leclerc is officially your new race leader. Carlos Sainz P2, and I think with the 1-2, it's a definite seal for the Constructors' Championship. Ricciardo has got up all the way to P3 with this undercut and pitting early onto the hards, but he's going to be under severe pressure from Verstappen, who has jumped Russell, and I mean, Verstappen and Russell are going to be a massive pain towards Ricciardo, so he needs to really he needs to be walking on eggshells. As you guys see, this is a replay of Sergio Perez coming out of the pit lane, and we being on already warm tires versus Checo's cold tires. It was kind of an easy move around the outside. But now, the fastest car, according to the R&D charts on the grid, is chasing us down, and we are still the slowest car. But I think for this first lap, I'll defend from him easily, because his tires will still be warming up. But from the next lap, I'm going to be screwed. But here we go, on to lap 20. Here goes Max Verstappen up the inside of the Honey Badger, his former Red Bull teammate Daniel Ricciardo. And will Russell follow him through? I think George will want to try and pressurize Verstappen for that final podium position. Around the outside goes the Brit, George Russell. Excuse the jump in the replay, guys, but Verstappen is past the Honey Badger. Russell is actually struggling a bit here to get past Daniel Ricciardo in the papaya orange McLaren. Here we go, to the inside for the next corner, but Ricciardo is not giving this up at all. Will the Mercedes have the legs on the McLaren? They both use the exact same engine. Up the inside for Russell, as Ricciardo has a bit of a lockup and he runs wide. They nearly bang tires there, but Russell is up up into P4, but the damage has been done by Ricciardo because it's 3 seconds back to Verstappen. And that is Russell's hopes of a podium shattered. As we still have to make our final pit stop, and we are under severe pressure from the Mexican Sergio Perez, as there's a massive moment into turn 1, as Perez literally hopped the curb to try and get past me, and in the process has broken his front wing. There's a bit of drama here around the at Marina Bay on the streets of Singapore, because Sergio Perez has just had a massive blunder. Let's look at our personal POV, guys. Our mediums are screaming out for help. We have a bit of a twitch of oversteer coming out of the final corner. We go a bit wide going off track. I do the defending that I need, and the next moment I just get shoved off track. Lucky not to have floor or side pod damage, but I mean Sergio Perez has just kamikazed his way into ruining his own race, because he has to pit now for a brand new front wing. So what is happening in this race? Guys, he hasn't even tried to make the corner. He completely bounces over the curbs and the sausage curbs, hits me, breaks his front wing, and sends me wide. I need to have a little bit of hands to keep my car in a straight line. But seriously, I went back to the racing line. Perez had more than enough space to make a proper move there. So he's into the pit lane. He's out of the top 5. So I'm sure McLaren are going to be smiling all the way to the bank after this weekend, as we still have to make a pit stop. And guys, the inevitable has happened, because we still are in the slowest car on this grid. And we are now under pressure from Hamilton, Magnussen, Gasly, and even Ocon is coming from behind. Here goes Hamilton up the inside. It's an easy move for the 7-time world champion. There's no point in me battling him. He's in a faster car, on fresher, quicker tires. So what is the point? At the end of lap 23, the start of lap 24, we pull the plug on the mediums. It's now time for our final set of softs. But at this stage, guys, I very much realized that points were the possibility of points were looking very bleak. But you never know if there's a late safety car. Let's stay positive and see what happens. But to get points, we need to get through Vettel. We actually need to get through Tsunoda, Vettel, Schumacher, Alonso, Ocon, and Magnussen. Well, sorry, and Ocon, just to Ocon. But guys, look what happens on lap 25. I say this is karma. That is what you get for what you did. Perez kamikazing his way to try and overtake me, nearly ruining both our races, almost ruining mine, and now he has gotten an engine failure, and the second Red Bull, the Red Bull that was doing the best this weekend so far, is out of the Singapore Grand Prix. We now have a battle with Yuki Tsunoda, as he has a big jolt to the inside as he tries to defend from us on lap 26, but to no avail. This Williams on soft tires was just too much to handle for the AlphaTauri, which is the second slowest team at this stage of the career mode. We now have a look at the two Alpines having a battle here for the final points paying position, but Esteban Ocon makes a massive mistake at the end of the back straight, and he is now down to P12, and his teammate Fernando Alonso, who started in P18 if I'm not mistaken, has fought himself all the way back into the points. So we need to catch this little queue, and you guys can see I'm right on the back of them. I can get points if I just put my head down, but it's going to be easier said than done. We go around the outside of the 4-time world champion Sebastian Vettel. We now chase after the Alpine of Esteban Ocon, and then it's just Mick Schumacher and Fernando Alonso standing in our way of points. We have got 4 laps to go. It is so close, but yet so far. But it's a massive dive up the inside of the second Alpine of Ocon. He loses not 1, not 2, but 3 positions in 1 lap. I'm sure that that Frenchman is going to be raging inside his cockpit. We now jump on to lap 30, and we have still not managed to get past the young German of Mick Schumacher. Will we go for the dive finder? Yes, to the inside at the end of the straight. It's a bit of a bumpy, bargy move, but I had to go for it, guys. But at this stage, my hopes and dreams were dashed, because Mick was so slow, he couldn't keep up with Alonso, but he was fast enough to keep me behind him. So we've lost out on the opportunity of points. But considering with what car we came to Singapore, a P11, is not bad after our teammate DNF'd and we were tried a very audacious 2-stop. I think this didn't go as bad as it seems. I think it went a lot better. But we now start the final lap of round 14 of this first season, and it is Charles Leclerc 2.7 seconds ahead of his teammate Carlos Sainz. Max Verstappen a further 9 seconds behind Carlos. He will be in the final podium position. Russell has finally caught up to Verstappen, but it's too little too late. Ricciardo P5, Norris P6, Hamilton in P7. He's not going to be happy in that Mercedes. Gasly is going to start the final lap in P8, but he's under pressure from I almost said Dutchman. From what is Magnussen again? He's a Swiss. No, he's not Swiss. I can't remember. But in any case, Gasly is under pressure from Magnussen, but Gasly keeps Magnussen at bay, and the final points paying position will go to my hero, one of the 2 men retiring at the end of this season with Sebastian Vettel. Fernando Alonso denies me points in his final season in Formula One in this little virtual world that we've got. We keep ahead of Mick Schumacher as we now jump to the Ferraris. Charles Leclerc wins the Singapore Grand Prix. Ferrari take a 1-2 with Sainz in P2. Verstappen will come home in P3 for Red Bull, followed closely behind by the silver arrow of George Russell. It's a brilliant day in the office for McLaren as well. Ricciardo and Norris P5 and P6. Hamilton will be raging in P7. Gasly will come home in P8 with Magnussen P9, Alonso in P10, and we are going to try and maintain P11. But Mick Schumacher and Sebastian Vettel, the 2 best friends on the grid, are not giving me an easy time at all. We've saved up our battery for this little final straight. So guys, as long as we don't make a mistake, we'll be all Gucci. We'll be all Gucci for P11 at the end of this race. But we've got 2 retirements in the form of Sergio Perez and Alexander Albon. I'm still very disappointed in my teammates' reliability this season. I've had rock solid reliability, but Albon has not been so fortunate. But guys, like I said, it's been a tough weekend. Bad chassis, bad aero and chassis track, and we tried a very, very tough 2-stop. I don't think P11 is something to frown upon. It's P11 here in Singapore!
Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
And with that, another year of Formula One draws to a close, and a new World Drivers' Champion is declared. Another entry added to that prestigious list of the sport's most incredible drivers. Not just victory today then, but the championship as well. What a spectacular season they've had. Congratulations to the whole team. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I feel consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
And here we are, a team that is no stranger to the podium, taking their place on top once again. A sublime race today, and a stunning win for Ferrari. Let's focus on the driver of the day. Natalie Pinkham, come on, who do you pick?
I have to give it to O'Connor. They fought so hard and had incredible pace at times, so I don't think anyone did a better job today.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. Ferrari continue to extend the gap at the top of the table. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport action. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
Honestly, with everything that happened this race, I'm surprised Ferrari aren't the Constructors' champs yet. it's a 1-2. So in my opinion, they've basically sealed it now. No matter what Red Bull and Mercedes do now, they just need to score another point or two and they're there. I mean, look at that, guys. Charles Leclerc is ahead by 84 points over Lewis Hamilton, who overtakes Perez for P2. But he's 84 points ahead in the Drivers' Championship. It's been a dominant performance from Charles this season. Charles, Lewis, and Perez are going to be the three to watch in Season 2, but I think Charles especially. So the gap in the constructors is 34 points. I actually thought it was a bit larger, to be honest. So, but I think Ferrari have sealed it now because Red Bull didn't finish with one car, they didn't finish. So if Ferrari just get another 1-2, championship's over, it's done. Because they need to be ahead by 52 points or more. Then they win. So let's see what happens at the, going into the next race. So for the next race, if they're ahead, no, it's not 52 points. It's not, it's more. It's not. Okay, guys, sorry, my calculations are completely wrong. What is it? A win is 25, second place is 18. So that gives us 33, 43. If you get fast lap, 44. So they need an 88. They needed 88 points to be in the lead to win the championship now. 89, actually. But for the next race, if they are ahead by more than 44 points, which they're only 10 points away from, constructors go to Ferrari. So Ferrari on the driver's seat, Red Bull need to show up some way. But guys, there's only 2 races left. And the next one is one of my all-time favorites. We're heading to the home of Ayrton Senna, to the Interlagos circuit in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I can't wait to race at Brazil. It's going to be a sprint race weekend, so it's going to be very, very entertaining indeed. Guys, you guys know obviously now with Lando having such a good performance, beating me today, I don't think we're going to catch Lando unless, like I said, he has 2 very bad races coming up. And with Ricciardo having such a phenomenal race, he might catch us still. But if we just stay in the top 10 of the drivers, I'll still be happy. I'm aiming for P8, but if we stay in the top 10, I will be more than happy with this. And constructors-wise, there's still a bit of work to be done for us, but it's not looking too stressful at this moment. But guys, it's been a phenomenal weekend. We really made the most of a very bad car. Nearly getting points. Just in the final few laps, things didn't go our way. And we still tried our absolute best. So honestly, I'm not just proud of myself, I'm proud of the team. It's been a good weekend. We're going to a power circuit next, so hopefully points are on the table. Maybe not the sprint race, but the main race, most definitely. And when you never know with Brazil, there might be a bit of rain coming, so that might spice things up. So we'll have to wait and see. But guys, once again, to all my Turbonatics, Happy New Year. Sorry for the drought on the channel recently. I've tried my best to keep stuff going, but I've just been too busy the past 2 months, guys. But we're back on the grind. I still love you guys. I haven't given up, and I've also not given up on you guys. It's going to be a good 2023. I really think it's going to be a good 2023. You guys are amazing. I love you. If you guys had any good memories this festive season, post them in the comments down below. I would love to hear what you guys did for your holiday season. Even if it was just going out for a few drinks with some mates or with family, that would still be a good way. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below what you thought of the video. How was your New Year's? And remember to drop a like down below on the video before you click off the video. And remember to go check out the links in the description down below. You guys are amazing. I love my Turbonatics. And guys, we've got big plans for 2023 on this channel. Stay tuned, enjoy, and hop on for the ride. You guys are amazing. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys next video. Cheers!